these are upright ridge saddles. If you imagine that this is your upright, your main upright, if you come over here, here is our ridge, right here. The saddle is going to be, I already have a line there, going to be holding this up. So this gets mounted to the saddle and the ridge rests right on the upright. And it eliminates a pin coming from the top of the upright through your ridge and out the top. It allows for a really easy setup. So you'll want to screw your upright down. I typically will put a tab of glue or something on there just to hold it. And then the other one goes on here. And that's your upright. Today we're going to set up an Oval Marquee. This is our first time out, so we don't even know if we're going to post this, but we're going to try it. This is a tent for a general's prayer. First thing you do, you have to follow me so I'm not hollering over a dog. As you put the ridge on the ground, you take your marquee top, any tent really, lay it out over the top. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the finials, the main finials, and I'm doing this for one very specific reason. It's windy out and we want to control the canvas, so we're going to use the weight of the ridge, which is missing. There we go. Weight of the ridge to help hold it down. Tie the ridge off. As you can tell by all the background noise, we live in a very rural area. Okay, the ridge is now secured. We started filming before I got everything out. So we're just going to go with it. You can see its basic shape. Let me grab some stakes. Okay, so in this case we're going to be standing it up in our yard, so we're using stakes. But this particular tent is going to be put on a platform on a stage, and so what we're doing for them, these will go on to the rope. very much like we use in camp. Our stake would go through that. However, this is going to attach to the platform that they build, screw to the floor, and then this is going to hook the rope, and it'll be just like our ropes holding onto a stake. So that'll help the tent stand on stage. I'm going to set this aside and grab a mallet. Okay, so now if you look here, you've got a bell there and a bell there, but you've got a straight side. The straight side is what you're concerning yourself with. So we're going to come about 3 feet out, put a stake in the ground. Brand new ropes, they still twist them. All right. And then we're going to come over here, kind of along this same line. If you can see this seam in the canvas on the bell, you're kind of want to be right about where that mallet is. We might adjust it so we're not going to drive it in just yet, but it gives you an idea. Get a little further than that because that's a short one. Okay, now we're going to take these two over to this corner. It's kind of a little twisted, but that's okay. We need to make sure we can see it. Again, about 3 feet out. Now this is for the stage production. If you're setting up your tent in camp, you kind of want to use the same measurement as your pole. In most camps, you don't have that much space. So on our tent, we go out about 5 feet off the side. Our tent is 18 by 26. This is 13 by 9. So we're gonna pull it in tight. And this also lets them know what it'll look like on stage. And again, we're following this seam in the bell. And these are our corner ropes. Walk with me, won't you? Okay, so once again, this is our straight, this goes up and over. Now to get us an idea of what we're looking at, this is 9 feet wide. We're actually pretty darn close. Actually, real darn close. Okay. So that's about where it's going to be. We're going to come off here about 3 feet. Again, with that line, that seam in the bell, we're going to want to come out over here. So what this does, the corner rope pulls this way straight over, up and over the seam, and it also helps pull it tight down the side. So we're pulling out over here. We want to be about 3 feet. Same with this one. So there's one corner, here's the other corner. About 3 feet. On a wall tent, 3 feet is plenty. Unless you have 5-foot sides. Then you might want to go out further. Okay. Finials. Now finials, in camp, I always see people using the finials incorrectly. What has to happen on the finial, this right here is for the rope. What this does is it pulls the you got the pole here, canvas, and the finial. What this does is it pulls the finial down over the grommet and waterproofs your tent, your grommet. What I see so many people do is you have the pole, the rope, well, the tent, and the rope, and the finial on top. That just makes it pretty, not functional. So you want to loop it over and put it on like that. Okay. Now we've got our poles sitting here, ready for our ropes. This first one by yourself is a little tricky, but it's doable. Now we're dragging the ridge, and that's okay. See, it's a little tricky. What we're going to do is we're going to go to the other side. Adapt and overcome. Except I lost my finial. There it is. We can come over here. Our ridge is still hanging there and it's helping us not blow around in the wind. And it's a pretty windy day today. Close. Close. Okay, come on around the other side. You're going to see a swimming pool effect here. This is what we call it. When something is out of square. I think we're going to see that on this one. way to figure out if you're square. You can take a tape measure and go diagonal pole to pole. It should be the same. That's 12'4". I'm going to tell you we're not square. 11'6". So what we're going to do, although it's not hanging too bad. So let me see the camera. The swimming pool effect is up here. And it's actually not hanging too horribly. Okay. Oh, come over here. So you can see the diagonal line up on the roof. What we're doing is we're pulling it a little bit out of square. So if you tighten this rope down here, you'll pull that right out. And it hasn't yet. It's not too bad, actually. So let's pull the bell out. Now, on the bell, you want to pull that tight. So right about there is where you're going to be, and about there, so you're going to come out about 3 feet. And you're going to follow that line straight to the ground. I might just put the rings on these ropes for them. You know, if I tied a necktie like that, I'd never get out of it. Okay. In this case, because we're coming off of the same pin, in 2 different directions, we're going to put 2 ropes on it. Center. So we're not going to put 2 ropes on it. I was thinking a center seam, it's not. Then you'll that is sagging like that because we're short. bet that looks better. It should be real close to where it needs to be. Okay. Now again, follow the seam down, and you could probably even hook it on that same mount in the stage. We'll snug everything up in a minute. So to recap, we stood the center up first. And now we're filling in, getting the bell standing. On tall pins like that. All right, let's go to the other side. One thing I'd like to point out over here, if you are going to be on stage, you can remove this pole so that the audience can see inside the tent. This would be there with a rope on it coming down, but you can also remove it. Now on the bell, you can't do that because you'll get this. So that will not hang right for your presentation. Might have gone out further than 3 feet. No, I didn't. Couldn't find my stakes. Go right about there in between. And that one's trying to pull out because the ground is soft. We only use hemp ropes. Hemp is not only historically accurate, but it is super strong, and when it gets wet, it only gets tighter. Okay, there it is, an Oval Marquee. Up a little bit. Need a sim. How's that look? Looks just like we meant it to. So now, if you were set up in camp, I would want the ropes out a little further, just because the 7-foot long. Should be about right. So now you can see those diagonal, it's a little out of square. So what you want to do is you want to tighten that rope, loosen this one, tighten that one. And that should have pulled it right out. Just that little bit is really all it needs. Now, there's still a little bit of sag on the bell, but that's because we're using our marquee uprights that are short. So, shimming them up to where they need to be. Sorry for the shaking, but we're giving you the 3D. Yeah, this one can get pulled out a little bit too. That rope can get pulled out just like that. I don't know if you can see that. Sun's on it. Yeah, both of those can. So if you can see, it's sagging a little bit right here. Right off of there. So we want to tighten that rope. And pull that out. I think we're still a little shy on height. Yeah, I think we're still a little shy on height.
Mm-hmm.
Sneaking up on it though. Probably still go up even a little bit more. Yeah, we can. But that gets us close. All right, let me see. We'll do one more walk around. Yeah, the wind's howling pretty good. And if you look here, you can see my main uprights are a little cattywampus there. So we need to straighten those out. But the one closest to us, that 2x twisted, so it's always looking like that. So put the ridge down, canvas over the top of it, tie the ridge off. That prevents it from blowing around. Now if you're setting it up on stage, like this one's gonna be, you don't have to worry about the wind. Get your stakes in the ground, and in this case, the rings screwed down to the platform. We'll supply all of those measurements. Again, you can see how there's no diagonal pulling. And you can go without a center pull here on stage because all the ropes are doing the job. You can also put it in, and when you hang the walls on it, the walls are gonna hang from these rings. So when you hang the wall on it, it's going to pull it down. So you're going to want the uprights in to hold that. All right. You can see the how the saddles work. Now again, I put that block in there just because we needed to get the height up. But you can see how the ties hold the ridge in place. And the saddles hold the ridge in place. And there it is. Okay, we've got 4 walls, 2 of them have 3 panels. And I put S-hooks on this for ease of removal between scene changes. We don't typically use S-hooks because they pop off easy for that very reason. These will tie off to the poles. Like that. We'll tie this one off to the pole just because, even though we don't have a rope on the outside. That's the other 3 panels. And yeah, I'll mark these to where they need to go. This is why we have 6.5 foot walls, not 7. Now these can tie to the pole or to each other as you see fit. I did the panels this way because you had shown an end being open. So I thought that if we're halfway on the side, you can then pull this back and make it work that way. So that's why you've got 4 wall sections, so that you can see what I mean. They unclip,
but you won't have that.
But
on
you won't
stage.
have the wind. Yeah,
you won't have
we
the
use
wind.
a snap clip so that it actually stays on the ring. There we go. And this pole isn't in at the moment, but you know what? I'll leave it that way so that you can see what I mean by it sagging. Come on, unfold. Need to tighten this one. I'll make sure all these are cinched down so they don't pop off. We are going to send some extra hooks just in case. again, you won't be contending with the wind. So if you come out here, you can see how the weight of the tent walls pull it down.
Yeah, it sags just a little bit.
So you'll want to, on the back that never gets opened up, you'll want to put that pole in to support it.
The other thing you could do is maybe do some kind of cross support between these two poles that you don't see from the outside.
If you really wanted that out.
Yeah, you could do that. You can use lots of different things, but
a piece of 1x2 with a hole drilled, you can put it on this pin and on this pin to help hold that. But depending on how long it stands up, it might sag anyway. So we'll put this last wall on so you can see it. So you've got 2 walls with 4 panels, 2 walls with 3 panels. And I'll mark the hooks up by the rings. I'll mark the hooks and the rings. Speaking of the ring, it's on top of the pole. So you got to make sure you don't trap the rings in place. There we go. Oops.
Actually looks really nice.
Another one on top of the pole. Batting 1,000. There we go. Go.
You got one flap tucked in there.
Oh, sure do. There we go. And again, you can tie these off to the poles. So you can remove them.
The other thing you can do is once these walls are up, you may want to, where's my finger?
And that's something I'm going to include some fender washers.
Yeah, you may want to stake the loops, you know, use fender washers and screw them to the platform just to keep it from moving around more.
So the walls that aren't going to move permanently, I'm going to have some flat washers and screws in the box with everything else. So you can screw this down to the stage and that makes everything really secure.
Just make sure your stage crew remembers that so they don't tear the loops.
It'll take a tug.
Yeah, it'll take a tug.
Okay. Here's a general's prayer. We just dropped the ridge out and you can see how nice and evenly, we call this a swimming pool. Because if it were to rain, it would hold a lot of water. You can see how it hangs nice and smooth. That tells me that this is actually standing very squarely. These are 7-foot tall poles, so I don't know that I'm going to be able to reach up and over, but we'll try it. I'm not going to make it. So we're missing a pole right there, but you can see how nice this hangs. Okay.